Your cat freezes and stares at a completely empty corner of the room. A moment later, it's sprinting across the house at 3 in the morning like something invisible just chased it. Then it knocks your favorite mug off the table, while looking you dead in the eye. It's easy to write all of this off as cats are just weird. But most of these moments aren't random at all. They're small pieces of a language your cat has been speaking to you the whole time. And once you understand it, you'll never look at these behaviors the same way again. Here are 7 of the strangest things cats do, and what they're actually trying to tell you. Let's start with the zoomies. You're asleep. Everything is quiet. And suddenly your cat is tearing through the hallway like it's being chased by something invisible. The easy explanation is that your cat has simply lost its mind for 30 seconds. But there's real biology behind this. Cats are built around short, intense bursts of energy, the kind they'd use in the wild to chase prey, and then rest for hours afterward. Indoor life doesn't really give them a chance to burn that off gradually, so it builds up, and when it finally releases, it comes out all at once, usually at the most inconvenient time possible. There's also a timing pattern worth noticing. Early morning and late evening line up almost perfectly with when cats are naturally most active in the wild. So those chaotic sprints aren't a glitch. They're your cat's internal clock doing exactly what it's designed to do. And here's the part most owners never realize. In the wild, that burst of energy wouldn't just end randomly. It would be followed by a catch, then eating, then grooming, then a long rest. That's a natural rhythm. Hunt, eat, groom, sleep. When you see your cat go from a wild sprint straight into aggressively cleaning itself a few minutes later, that's not a coincidence. That's the same ancient sequence playing out on your living room floor, just without the mouse at the end. Which is actually useful information. A short bout of play right before bed, something that mimics an actual catch, can sometimes shift the whole pattern and buy you a quieter night. So it's not misbehavior. It's an energy system with nowhere else to go, still running on instructions written a very long time ago. And speaking of energy that seems to come out of nowhere, there's another behavior that looks even more deliberate. You've seen this one. Your cat walks up to a glass, a pen, your phone, looks directly at you, and then slowly pushes it off the edge of the table. It feels personal, like a tiny act of rebellion. But your cat is just being a jerk is actually too simple an explanation. A lot of this comes down to paws being an extension of curiosity. Cats use their paws almost the way we use our hands, to test, to poke, to figure out whether something moves, rolls, or reacts. When an object shifts and falls, that's genuinely fascinating to a predator's brain. It behaves unpredictably, which is exactly the kind of thing a hunter is wired to investigate. But here's the part that makes it worse for your furniture. If you react, even just by saying no or getting up, your cat learns something very specific. Push object. Human appears. That's it. That's the whole lesson. Tomorrow it's not really testing gravity anymore. It's pressing a button it already knows works. You reacted once, and from that point on, the object was never really the point. You were. So it's not revenge. It's curiosity that accidentally discovered a very effective way to get your attention, and then kept using it. Which brings us to something a little more mysterious than knocking things over. Sometimes your cat isn't doing anything at all. It's just sitting there completely still, staring at an empty wall or a blank corner of the ceiling, and it's honestly a little unsettling to watch. Is there actually something there? In many cases, probably, yes. Just not something obvious to you. Cats can pick up on tiny movements, faint sounds, dust particles catching the light, even vibrations you wouldn't register at all. Their hearing range alone stretches well beyond ours into frequencies we simply can't hear. So that blank spot on the wall might contain a bug, a draft moving through a vent, a reflection shifting with the light outside, or a sound coming from somewhere else in the house entirely. It only looks like nothing. Because you're working with a completely different set of senses. But there's a second layer to this worth knowing. Most of the time, this kind of stare is calm. Ears relaxed, body loose, tail still. That's just quiet observation. The moment to actually pay attention is when the stillness turns tense. Low body posture, dilated pupils, a puffed tail. That shift usually means your cat isn't just noticing something anymore, it's deciding whether to react to it. Keep that distinction in mind, because it matters more than it seems. And it comes back in a much bigger way toward the end of this video. Now here's one that seems to contradict everything about a predator that's supposedly always alert. You buy an expensive plush cat bed, your cat ignores it completely. In favor of squeezing into a cardboard box 2 sizes too small. It looks almost comedic, but there's real logic behind it. Enclosed spaces do something very specific for a cat's nervous system. They limit how exposed the body feels from every angle at once. In the wild, being out in the open means being visible to threats approaching from any direction. A tight, enclosed space removes most of those angles in a single move. It's not really about the box itself. It's about what the box does to how vulnerable a cat feels in that particular moment. There's actually a well-known pattern behind this. In shelter environments, cats, given access to a simple box, tend to show lower stress and adjust to a new space noticeably faster than cats without one. Not a soft bed, not extra space, just something small enough to hide inside. Warmth, pressure against the body, reduced exposure. It adds up to something that feels genuinely safer than an open cushion ever could, no matter how comfortable that cushion looks to us. And that idea of feeling safer by feeling smaller and more hidden becomes a lot more important with the next behavior. Because this one confuses almost every cat owner at some point. Your cat is curled up next to you, purring, clearly enjoying the attention. And then, out of nowhere, it bites your hand. It feels like the mood flipped instantly, for no reason at all. But it almost never actually happens, for no reason. There are usually small warning signs as right before it. A tail that starts flicking, skin that twitches along the back, ears that shift slightly, just a few degrees, muscles that tense up under your hand. Most people miss all of this because it's subtle and because it happens fast, layered underneath what still looks like affection. What's actually going on is something called overstimulation. Repetitive touch can go from pleasant to overwhelming surprisingly quickly for a cat's nervous system. The bite is often the only clear, unmistakable signal left. Once the smaller ones were missed entirely. The real takeaway here isn't cats are unpredictable. It's that cats are communicating well before they reach that point. Most people just haven't learned to read it yet. And that idea, that communication is happening earlier than we realize, long before things escalate, leads directly into one of the most misunderstood behaviors of all. Your cat rolls onto its back and shows you its belly. Every instinct says this is an invitation, the same way it would be with a dog. So you reach out to pet it. And suddenly you got claws wrapped around your arm. It feels like a trap. But it's really a translation error. Exposing the belly is one of the most vulnerable positions a cat can offer. It usually means relaxation, comfort, trust. I feel safe enough around you to expose the part of my body I'd protect most in a fight. It is not, in most cases, an invitation to actually touch that spot. The belly still guards vital organs, and a hand suddenly pressing there can flip a defensive instinct on almost instantly, the same way a sound behind you might make you flinch even in a room you know is safe. So this gesture isn't a contradiction. It's your cat telling you something real. Your hand is just asking for something they never actually offered. Which brings us to the last one. And honestly, it's the quietest behavior on this entire list. No sprinting, no biting, nothing falling off a table. Your cat just looks at you from across the room, holds eye contact for a second, and then slowly closes its eyes. That's it. And yet this tiny gesture might carry more meaning than anything else we've talked about. Think about everything that came before this. The sprinting, the knocked over cup, the stare at an empty corner, the bite that seemed to come from nowhere. Every one of those was loud, in its own way, impossible to miss. This one isn't. In the animal world, sustained direct eye contact is often read as a challenge or a threat, predator to predator. That kind of unbroken stare usually means, I'm watching you, and you should be watching me too. So a cat willingly holding your gaze, and then deliberately softening it, letting its eyes close in front of you, is a small, genuine signal that it doesn't feel the need to stay on guard around you. Remember that stare at the empty corner from earlier? The one where your cat was quietly reading details you couldn't even perceive? This is almost the exact opposite of that moment. There, your cat was scanning for something. Here, it's choosing not to scan at all. It's letting its guard down on purpose in front of you specifically. And it connects directly back to the belly, too. Both are about vulnerability, just expressed at completely different scales. One is physical and dramatic, claws and all. The other is small enough to miss if you blink at the wrong moment. You can actually try returning it. Hold their gaze for a moment, then blink slowly and look away. It's not exactly a cat saying, I love you. That's probably overstating it. But it is a real, quiet acknowledgement that they're comfortable enough with you to relax completely, even for a second, in a body that's built to always be watching for something. And that's really the thread running through everything here. The zoomies, the knocked over cup, the empty stare, the box, the sudden bite, the exposed belly. None of it was ever random. It was hunting instinct, curiosity, heightened senses, self-protection, boundary setting, or trust. Just expressed in ways that don't always translate cleanly into human logic. So the next time your cat does something that seems completely inexplicable, it might be worth pausing before deciding it's just weird. From their side of things, it usually makes a perfect sense. And sometimes understanding your cat starts with something as small as a slow blink across the room.